Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I would like to talk about fertility after over 40. And for that, I have with me Julie Chang. Hi, Julie, how are you?
Hello, Beverley. I'm doing fantastically well. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's a
An honor.
pleasure. I'm glad that you are here and you will be sharing a great information. So first of all, for those who don't know you, can you just share who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I am a spiritual conception coach. So what that means is that I have the greatest privilege of helping women on an intuitive and heart-led journey to invite in their baby intentionally. For those who are facing challenges, I specialize in working with women over 40 or women who want the extra spiritual support, because that's really where I work in. I'm there to guide them to manifest their baby very consciously. So what we do is we align their heart and their mind with their vision of the family that they want. And I teach them how to connect with the soul of their baby even before they get pregnant. So that's part of the conscious part of it. It's also a very transformative process because I show women how to relate with their bodies on an intuitive level to get guidance on how to create a nurturing and welcoming space for their future babies. So it's just really a blessing to be able to teach women, show women how to bend reality in this way to support their motherhood journey and growing their family in such a unique and special way.
That's wonderful. And is there a specific woman that you're working with a special need, or is like every type of woman?
The women that I typically,
Yes.
go ahead, Barbara.
No, I mean, like, if there is a woman who have a hard time getting pregnant or maybe have issue with her reproductive system. Yeah.
Yeah, so the women that I usually work with are women in their 40s. So usually what comes with that is kind of a package of age-related issues. So usually they're doctors or they're seeing online that it's going to be more difficult to get pregnant. So we have to work with really kind of adjusting their mindset to drop the age so that age doesn't become a limiting factor. And then as you know, and as part of being over 40, there is a physical issue of there are less eggs available. So how do we make the most of the eggs that they do have left, which they have plenty of, but because of the constant messaging of maybe it's their doctors or of media, they think that they really are kind of at the very end of their reproductive cycle, and that they really don't have very much chance. And part of my job is to help to reframe that it's not about how many eggs that they have. It's really about the quality of the eggs that they have and just really making the best of their situation, because I firmly believe that if someone has a very heartfelt desire to have a baby and it's coming from within, so there's a distinction of really wanting to have a baby for themselves to grow their family, which is the women that I work with. But there are some women who want a baby because they see other people having a baby, and it's almost a sense of FOMO, of fear of missing out on something. And it's not really an internal need. So my belief is that if it's a really internal, heartfelt desire, then they absolutely have the capability of being able to have a baby. If they can imagine it, they can have it. It's just we have to align their heart and their mind so that it's coherent and their body becomes this open vessel to welcome in a baby. And so those are typically the type of women that I work with. It's women over 40.
I see. And for what I read about you and on your website, and I liked, is that age is just a number, because there is a belief that women who get 35, after that, they cannot get pregnant. So I'm sure you need to work on the mindset to change as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that number is so arbitrary. Some doctors say 35, other doctors say 40. The fact that there's a differing opinion is opinion. And so it's just that it's repeated so often, and then women are in a very vulnerable state when they're going in to see their doctor, that they're soaking up this information and they're creating this narrative that it's true. And it doesn't have to be true. There are plenty of women, my clients, I have women in their 40s getting pregnant all the time with their first babies or with their second or even third. And so that story doesn't have to be part of their identity. And that's one of the most important things that women in their 40s have to learn, is to be able to separate what's coming at them from the outside and being able to stay really strong within themselves and in their vision of what they want for themselves, regardless of what other people are saying, even if they're people who have authority status like doctors, right? And so really coming into their own, of being really grounded in their truth. And that's part of the spiritual journey, is knowing what's true for you. Because typically what's true for you means that you're going against the mainstream society. That's part of the spiritual journey. And that's why it's hard for people. It's difficult for people, because we all want to be part of this greater community. And we are meant to interact with other people, but there is an inner truth of who we are as individuals, that we have our own purpose, our own plan, and that doesn't necessarily feed into the mainstream narrative. And we have to be very grounded in that.
I agree, because we know a lot of women in different culture have even the first kids and when they are 60. So
absolutely, yeah, and it's because those cultures don't have that mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And the reason is because, well, part of the reason, I can't say the full reason, is many of those other cultures don't have just Western medicine as their main medicine. They have a kind of an indigenous, a native medicine, that native healing system that they're very tied to. And typically with the native healing systems, with the indigenous healing systems like Chinese medicine, which I was trained in, and even in Ayurveda and Native American, we don't talk about age. We talk about the inner spirit, right? And so the thing about Western medicine, and it has its great points, is that it's the science of disease. That's what studying is, disease. Whereas pretty much every other medicine and system is studying and really promoting balance and well-being and health. It's completely different paradigms. And so the problem is that everyone puts so much stock and so much importance into Western medicine and what they have to say and the statistics and the studies and stuff like that. Yeah, it has its place and it has its importance, and I'm not diminishing that, but it has to be weighed with the intuitive intelligence, the natural wisdom that our body has. Western medicine, modern medicine cannot explain how this beautiful organism that all of us has, 8 billion people, how our heart beats, how our mind thinks, how our digestive system works. We know so little about how the body functions. And we claim to know everything, but we don't. And so there's this native intelligence, this innate intelligence that we can all tap into. And that's what I mean when I say that I show women how to connect with their body, because their body knows. There's 2 fundamental primary drives for every person. That's survival and that's reproduction. Every species has those 2 primary drives, right? They have to survive the environment that they're living in, get food, have shelter, stay safe so they don't get eaten up. That's survival. I don't talk about that. And then there's reproduction. It's written into our DNA. It's written into our body. And so that's how our species propagates and continues. So it's something that the body already knows. We just have to get out of the way with our tendency to overanalyze, to overthink, to create this logical step-by-step plan of how to get pregnant. And it's just, for some people it works. It's at a certain point though, you can overdo it, because you're because we kind of take for granted how simple things can be. Conception is a very simple process. We all know it. People, kids know it. With the internet, they know it, far younger than we did. We know how it works.
Yeah.
If we can stay with the simplicity of that and not overcomplicate it with like all the tracking and the blood tests and the ultrasounds and stuff like that, just get to the basics. Connect with your partner, really love on yourself, take care of yourself. Those are the basics that's necessary, but we're so stressed out in our Western society that we just get so removed from what our body needs, from what our soul needs. And it's in that separation that we create this kind of contention with our heart and mind. It no longer is aligned, and it's actually fighting each other. And that's what we need to do, is to create the harmony between the mind and the heart, and what your soul truly wants.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes when it's too simple, we think it's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's the thing as well.
Yeah. And that's honestly what I see most, is that, and that's why I tell clients, I tell the people who receive my emails, who listen to me, that I tell them a lot of times they have to just drop a lot of the things that they're currently doing, is because they're just completely overcomplicating it. Some of them have these long lists of supplements. The supplements are helpful, but you know what? It's just, your body has its own pharmacy. It knows what to do. It's when you go back to, and I also say this quite a bit, is that, as soon as a girl has her period, we all know she can get pregnant right from the very first period, right? It starts, then it becomes like, okay, this is what you need to do, and we start to educate her like right from the get-go.
Yes.
So the body's very intelligent on that part, right? Menarche, the first period comes in, we know she can get pregnant. So on the other side, it makes no sense, and it's not energy efficient. It's not efficient for the body to go through these years of not being able to get pregnant, of what people call perimenopause, and and all of those symptoms. It doesn't make sense that the body would elongate that process and not be able to reproduce. And so on the front end, you can reproduce and get pregnant right out of the gate. So have that same mentality of, your body is healthy enough, doesn't matter what your age, to be able to get pregnant until your period stops and you're officially in menopause. Even some women in menopause still get, like, even that's a kind of an arbitrary cutoff.
Yeah,
because I know women who've been officially diagnosed as in menopause and they get pregnant. I've had clients who've been in menopause or perimenopause get pregnant. So even then, so it's like just kind of releasing that thought pattern of oh, my body's just in decline and it can't get pregnant, and just reversing that. My body's healthy and it's vital. And, it's changing that relationship to the body of like, blaming it or judging it, of like, no, she's my best friend. She is your best friend, and treating her like that with loving kindness, with grace. When you treat your body like that, oh my gosh, with a best friend, partner, when you treat them with love and kindness, and just, do they show?
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Internet connection. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so that was all I wanted to say.
Okay. And one thing you mentioned when you work with your client is about, you encourage them to be in contact with the spirit of the baby. Why is it important, and how does it help?
Yeah,
actually?
So we call, so there's a term called spirit baby that's relatively accepted now. I think it was called coined by the author Walter Mackin, who has since passed away. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He wrote the book Spirit Babies. I think he's the one who coined that term because I hadn't heard of it before. And it refers to the soul of the baby that's going to come in. And you can connect with the soul before conception, before you get pregnant. And that's what I help my clients do. It's a very conscious process. I don't connect with them. I teach them to connect with their baby. So I'm not the psychic, I'm not the medium. They do it themselves. And they have the capability, as long as they're shown, pretty much almost all my clients are able to. Everyone's kind of differing in terms of their level of connection and how clear the communication comes in. But for the most part, almost all my clients have been able to connect with them or feel their presence in some way. So it's a very beautiful experience. Part of the reason, there are a number of reasons why I add that element into my process and into my strategy is number one, because again, I usually work with women who are in their 40s or who have been trying for a long period of time and they're feeling discouraged. They're not sure if there's even a baby for them because it's been so long, or, because of their age, they don't realize that, or they don't think that a baby's available for them. So in the process of connecting with their spirit baby, then they realize, oh, there is a soul there. And this is what I would say to anyone, again, going back to, if you have a heartfelt desire and you put out that intention into the universe that you want to get pregnant with a healthy child, with a spirit baby, a soul who is ready to incarnate, someone will come in, a soul will come in, because there are many more souls that want to incarnate than there are available mothers. So there is actually a greater demand than there is a supply of pregnant or to be pregnant mothers, if that makes sense. So that is not an issue ever. That's something that I can promise and guarantee. There is always a soul available. And so that's really one big reason why I bring in the spirit baby part, is just so that they are comforted by the presence and the knowledge that their spirit baby is available to them and is there with them. Just really with as simple as an invitation, as simple as a hello, come join me now. The other reason why I bring in the spirit baby in my work with my clients is because we can actually ask the spirit baby for guidance on how to get pregnant, to help with the actual conception, once they get pregnant, to help with the pregnancy, and then later on to help with the delivery. So we can get guidance from the spirit baby on that. So those are the two primary reasons why I bring in the spirit baby, the concept of the spirit baby and the soul of the baby into our sessions.
That's great. That's, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I think you cover everything. I don't know if there was anything that you want to add.
Yeah, so the main thing that I want to emphasize for women is that it's a very simple process. I'm going to call it ABC. You ask for what you want. Mm-hmm. B, you believe in it. And C, conceive. Or actually, it's actually receive, but then I made it conceive, so that's ABC. But ask, be clear. So let me go over the steps. Be clear about what you're asking for. You're asking for a healthy baby, right? I'm assuming that everyone wants to have a healthy baby. So you're asking for the baby. Don't focus on what you think is getting in the way, whether it's your age or the medical diagnosis or your past history, whatever hasn't worked. Stop focusing on that, because that's irrelevant to creating the future. It's completely irrelevant, because what you want to do is see each present moment as a blank slate and a blank opportunity, a new opportunity to create a new future. So don't bring in the baggage of the past. Just ask very clearly and stay connected to that request and to that vision. So that's the asking part. The B is the believing. You've got to believe that you can have it. And so whatever doubts and fears and anxieties, you're going to have to do the best that you can to minimize that. because if most of your attention and energy is wrapped around that, it's completely misaligned to the vision of the ask, to the number, that first part, to the asking. They're different frequencies. Fear and doubt and anxiety is one frequency, whereas the love of your baby, the joy and the contentment of having your family grow, that's a completely different frequency. It's like, you know, on a radio, it's like on a radio station, right?
Yeah.
This is AM and this is FM. Nowhere even close to each other. The gap is too big. It's too big. So they have to, the baby is not going to come over to the fear side. They just can't. It's not part of their frequency signature. They cannot come over to this side. And you shouldn't ask them to, because that's not their job. Your job is to release the fear, because that's within your control, to reduce the fear, to have more mastery over the stories and assumptions and the narratives that's running around your head. You drop those, then your frequency will naturally rise, because all of our natural frequencies is that of joy. That's how all of us came in as babies, of joy, of curiosity, right? We have to reconnect to that. It's as we get older, the fear starts to set in, the stress starts to set in, and it dampens our natural frequency. So if you release that fear, your frequency will start to rise and become more of that in tune. So you start shifting from the AM to the FM, and you start getting closer and closer. So that's the believing part. You got to believe that the baby is there, because if you keep doubting it, it's too much static. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
When the belief is really set in place, or relatively, it doesn't have to be complete. You just have to tip it in your favor. At least like 51% belief, you know, for some, like I say, at least 51. But for some people, it's going to have to be a lot higher. Everyone's going to be different. Once you move over to the belief spectrum, to that station, then you become open to the receiving, and you can conceive and you can get pregnant. So that's that's the process that I like to kind of just really simplify, that they have to work through and really embody. And so anyone who is having trouble getting pregnant, if just believe in yourself, believe in that heartfelt desire, and things will start to unfold much more naturally, much more flowingly, and much more easily.
Some women might ask, I know we cannot put time but once they do what, if they work with you, for example, and they do exactly the way you show, how long usually your client within, do you have approximately a time frame?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. So typically women who come to me already without really any fear, already in the belief that they can get pregnant, and there's very little resistance, they will usually get pregnant within a few months. So it's relatively quickly. Wow. So like one client I have right now, who's actually two clients right now, who's 42 years old, it only took a few months. So that was quick. Yeah. That I consider quick. For most women who come to me, there is usually a pretty fair amount of fear and doubt that we have to work through. And that usually takes at least a year. And so for most of my clients, it usually takes about 1 to 2 years for them to get pregnant, some longer, but most within that time frame. And I like to be very clear about this, because people are kind of unrealistic in terms of the time frame, in terms of how long it takes to get pregnant. So one of the byproducts of being over 40 is that it will naturally take longer. Yeah. That's just going to be a fact. I mean, when you think about when we were in our 20s, even our 30s, we were able to like go out, all the way to like 3 a.m, or just have these all-nighters, drink all night. And then next day we were up and running, going to work or doing whatever, right? Or repeating the cycle again. Yeah. Right. And when you're in your 40s, you can't do that. You've got to get your 8-9 hours of sleep. You got to eat well, you got to exercise. Like you got to do all this maintenance to, even just function in your normal everyday life. That's normal aging process. That's completely normal. So women in their 40s think, oh, I'm going to get pregnant like women in their 20s. I'm sorry, girl, but it's not going to happen.
It's
It
not
just
possible.
isn't. It's not I mean, there are going to be exceptions, but they're thinking of themselves as 20-something-year-olds.
Yeah.
You're going to have to give it at least like a year, 6 to 12 months before you start thinking there's something wrong. And I put it in quotations because people label it as wrong, like something's off. But people like, you know, right out of the gate, like within a few months, and I see this over and over again, like they don't get pregnant within like 3 months, and they're like, and they start panicking. I'm like,
yeah,
you haven't even gotten on the field yet.
yeah,
And you're starting to worry and sweat. That's what's creating the anxiety, because right from the start, they're already setting themselves up with these false expectations that just are completely unrealistic. And so that's why I'm really clear with clients. It can take 1 to 2 years, because number one, you're over 40. And number two, there's a lot of resistance to work through. And so, you know, and the reason why I say this is because, one of my clients right now, she's about to give birth. Actually, she's scheduled for a C-section next week. She's 47.
Wow.
And I've been working with her for 2.5 years. So it took a while to move her to that state of being confident within herself and believing in her being able to be a mother. And so that's what people need to understand, that it takes time.
Yeah.
And you have to let go of the age. You have to let go of the time. The more that you look at the schedule and the clock, the worse it's going to get.
Stress. Yeah. The more you stress.
The more you stress, and the longer it actually becomes, you become even more delayed. You have to think of yourself as the master of time. You're the master of time. Time isn't outside of you. And we've all been in those states, like when you're on vacation, right? You're really enjoying yourself, or when you're enjoying yourself, having a great time with friends and family, there's no concept of time. Time is completely dropped, right?
Yes.
It seems like it's just stretched forever. That's what I mean, is you have the ability to master time internally. But when you have a deadline, like a work deadline, and you haven't done anything, and it's like it's the next day, oh my God, you get so stressed and da-da-da-da. That's because you gave your power over to time. It needs to come from within. So the age thing, it needs to come from within. It's not about the age. It's about how you see yourself, how you see your age, and what your relationship is with that number. So that's, you know, that's how long it takes for me to work with clients and them getting, them being able to get pregnant.
That's great. And if people want to reach you, what is the best way to be able to reach you? On your website?
Yeah, so they can reach me on my website, mybabyafter40.com.
Okay.
And 40 is spelled as the number 40.com. And it gives a little bit information about myself. And I have different programs. So that's runs. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. I will add it below the video so people can just click on it and be able to reach you.
Yes, thank you so much, Beverly. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope everyone will enjoy it, especially women over 40. There is a lot of information, and like you mentioned, Julie, it's really simple. ABC.
It can be as simple as that. No need to try to overcomplicate it.
Thank you so much, Julie, for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good luck on your motherhood journey.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And see you soon and talk to you soon. Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.